With the fantasy football playoffs rapidly approaching, you need help for your fantasy squad, and that's why we are here for you. It's the Week 13 Waiver Wire show. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom on the Audible, starting with quarterbacks and Bryce Young. What a turnaround. Carolina's got to be rethinking some things with the way that Young has played after he came back from his benching.
And what people need to know is that he really rose to the occasion. Steve Spagnuolo is one of those defensive coordinators that if you've got flaws, he's going to exploit those flaws. And he's going to put on a clinic on how an inexperienced quarterback can be frustrated. And instead, Bryce Young was very effective at countering what Steve Spagnuolo was doing. So this is really promising. This week, he has Tampa Bay. It's a good matchup. Remember, a lot of scoring drives. I forget how many field goals. Eddie Pinheiro, I think, by the way, has become the most accurate field goal kicker of all time since Justin Tucker's been struggling. But a lot of field goals for that prolific field goal kicker. If those turn into touchdowns against Tampa Bay, you might be talking. Now, there's no teams on bye this week, but Bryce Young could at least have value as an emergency backup quarterback and could get all of his targets healthy at one time. That could also help. So Carolina's offense is turning the corner largely because of Bryce Young.
Because of Bryce Young, but he's not the only one that can help you out. Cooper Rush, yeah, they're sticking with
Yeah.
Cooper. So let's talk about Cooper and any other quarterbacks that would be available.
Right. This waiver wire show, we're going to dig. In some ways, this is good, and I don't want to anger the fantasy football gods. Things have been quiet. It's kind of like, what team did you draft? Did you make a few trades? Did you make a few pickups? So the churn at quarterback is actually very calm. And Cooper Rush is one of the names we're going to talk about because, well, he started throwing downfield a little bit more, got CD Lamb, so there's some value there. And against the Giants, this is the one team, if you watched football this weekend, that is mailing it in. Brian Dable is getting into that zone where you want to really send this product out there every week, especially on national TV, especially on Thanksgiving. So Cooper Rush, 2 quarterback superflex leagues, or again, I think the other thing we can say is no more talk about Trey Lance starting after they got the win at Washington. So that gives you a little more stability if you're holding on to him in 2 quarterback superflex leagues. Also, Will Levis was mainly other players who created his value, but he's holding on with a big win on the road in the division. Desmond Ridder, he can run, probably going to start against Kansas City on Friday, and Brandon Allen, he might not start another game. He might start for the rest of the year. It's the San Francisco experience, everybody.
Yeah, we just don't know. So we'll sit here and we will wait. Full report, of course, available at footballguys.com. It's Sigmund's upgrades, downgrades, waiver wire report. And check it out. And we appreciate you for doing that. To the running back position, and Jeremy McNichols, who seems like he's been playing forever, had a stint with the Broncos. It is a Broncos show. More on that in a bit.
Yeah.
But Jeremy McNichols, a good all-around back. Boise State kid, right? Off the top of my head. He's been around a while. He can do a little bit of everything, and now the Commanders will be asking him to do more.
Yeah, I think it's one of his primary teams, not truly a revenge game. I think Jeremy McNichols is happy to have opportunity in NFL. I don't think he's taking revenge on anybody.
No.
Going up against Tennessee, and you have Brian Robinson not able to play through the ankle injury. You have Austin Eckler, who suffered a concussion late in that game. So it does look like you're going to see McNichols. It's a tough Tennessee defense. It's a pretty game Tennessee defense. But McNichols probably will get the start. Chris Rodriguez will probably get called up from the practice squad. It's possible Rodriguez could show a little bit. In deep dynasty leagues, you might want to do a preemptive ad there. But again, this is a testament, Cecil. We always want to, especially around this time of year, we want to call attention to the human stories in the NFL and the perseverance, because Jeremy McNichols has bounced around a lot of practice squads. I don't even want to say rosters, practice squads, future contracts, off-season participation, but he would not be here. We would not be talking about him were it not for his belief in self, and that might lead to some surprising fantasy value in Week 13.
I guess it's not a surprise, but Dylan Laube didn't do much of anything
Ugh.
except fumble on a return again. Nice return. And that just meant more Ameer Abdullah going forward. Maybe he can help.
Yeah, we'll see about Zamir White and Alexander Madison's condition. I think White is probably in a little better condition than Madison, but Raiders, again, playing on Friday against Kansas City, Ameer Abdullah, basically an every down back. And he has that skill set, one time a Matt Waldman favorite. And I guess if there's a lesson here, Cease, it is don't assume bad organizations are assumption of rational roster management or assumption of rational grasping where you are in the arc of your franchise, because Dylan Laube is a draft pick, and this is the time of the year you see what you have in these guys. But Antonio Pierce wants to get some W's or at least some not so embarrassing L's. So you had the veteran in there. Now watch, maybe they'll give Laube opportunity anyway. But for now, Abdullah looks like he's got enough value to be a flex play, assuming both of those stars are out. And also the other thing we'll say is, and because it's quiet, what a quiet week on the waiver wire. Probably the quietest week 13 I can ever remember. But backup running backs. And you can make your judgments. But again, Tyler Algier coming back off a bye. Braylon Allen coming back off of a bye. Ray Davis coming back off of a bye. Jordan Mason's interesting with the possibility that Christian McCaffrey shut down at some point. Trey Benson, if he gets dropped, Roschon Johnson probably should be on a roster. Jalen Wright is the backup to one Devon Achane. Craig Reynolds with David Montgomery's shoulder. We're waiting to hear more about that. Zach Charbonnet, Blake Corum, of course. So these guys it's imperative that they are on a bench because they could end up being league winners.
Well, as we move to the wide receiver position, there was a time when Tim Patrick had tremendous upside for the Denver Broncos, and he just couldn't stay healthy. And then in the 7th round, they drafted from Utah, Devaughn Vele, who wore the same number as Tim Patrick. He's changed his number now. But he looked like Tim Patrick. He played like Tim Patrick. He ran like Tim Patrick, not as fast as Timmy Pats. So let's double dip here to kick off the wide receiver position with Devaughn Vele, who's clearly the number 2 target and the guy behind Cortland Sutton that you need to know. And then Tim Patrick going from Denver to Detroit and making big plays.
Yeah, this is fun because when Tim Patrick was released, it's a bit strange. They could have used Tim Patrick. And as you said,
looked good in training camp.
Yeah, even the kind of receiver he is, the size outside, that's what Sean Payton wants. But maybe part of why Tim Patrick was allowed to seek greener pastures, a chance at a ring, is Devaughn Vele. And you have now a Bo Nix offense. After all of the moves they made to make this a power running team, it's a Bo Nix offense. That's good for Devaughn Vele. Going up against Cleveland on Monday night, we know Cleveland's secondary is vulnerable. That's good for Devaughn Vele. Tim Patrick maybe has some opportunity on Thanksgiving because Khalif Raymond's banged up. So we saw Tim Patrick getting open. And again, it's the Lions offense. They're going to add value to everybody. So he's got a good what the heck flex value going forward. And it's good to see this and see, as people may not know, Tim Patrick was undrafted, but Tim Patrick put good tape against NFL corners, against first round NFL corners.
Adoree Jackson, he worked him.
He worked him. So it was injuries. It was the inability to stay healthy. And it's so great that he's made a career for himself. He's made some money and he's still making plays, maybe for your fantasy team, and maybe having a chance to get that elusive ring this year.
I'd love to hang out with Tim Patrick in New Orleans early next year.
Yeah.
Hint, hint,
I know a place.
There you go. Let's talk about Calvin Austin and some other wide receivers to be aware of.
And Calvin Austin is interesting because of the Russell Wilson moonball. And Russell Wilson did what he did in the snow. I come out of the week 12 loss. My buddy, the farmer, Mississippi farmer via Western Pennsylvania, he just had this look on his face like, back again. This is where we're back again. Why didn't they let Russell Wilson pass more? It was clearly the most effective side of the offense, even in the snow. Calvin Austin is one of those players with that speed that only needs 4 or 5 targets a week to be relevant with Arthur Smith. At least Arthur Smith is doing this, is harnessing that deep ball and the deep passing game. So while Mike Williams made that splash, that game-winning touchdown for the Steelers, when he came to the Steelers, I think Calvin Austin is that number 2 option that we want to have. Carolina's wide receivers, take your pick. Xavier Legette, Adam Thielen, David Moore. Splitting this and going up against Tampa Bay, they're all what tech flexes. Demario Douglas, a perpetual waiver wire wide receiver, still probably the number 1 target for Drake May. Noah Brown, the number 2 target for Jaden Daniels. Trey Tucker's interesting just because when Desmond Ridder got on the field late, that's who he was targeting effectively. And Trey Tucker has speed to take any target to the house. Don't forget about Marquez Valdez-Scantling coming off of a bye. This is like a player we're going to talk about at tight end where, okay, 1 week could be a fluke. But when it's 2 weeks, you take notice. It was 2 weeks that Valdez-Scantling came through going into the bye.
Yeah, look out for the Kansas City Chiefs, as always. And we always thought, but they won't be the same without Travis Kelce. Enter Noah Gray.
Yeah.
Who liked it. I liked him at the Senior Bowl, and they still have Jared Wiley, who I loved at the Senior Bowl. He got hurt this year. But still, Noah Gray's making plays with Travis Kelce still around.
Right.
Still making plays himself. So Noah Gray leading off the tight end position.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns in back-to-back weeks, so we're not gonna ignore that. A touchdown in back-to-back weeks, that could be a fluke, but you see him starting to really emerge in this pass offense, and it is gonna be a pass offense that doesn't have that clear number 1 target. It is a pass offense that is going to be frustrating week to week, but you are seeing Patrick Mahomes throwing more, and the defense is actually showing some cracks. So, again, led off with Bryce Young making this a game that went down to the final seconds for Kansas City against Carolina. So if there's more competitive Kansas City games, if Desmond Ridder can keep the Raiders in, then that helps Noah Gray's case. But I think that we can see that in the post Travis Kelce era, now Noah Gray, I believe, is going to be a free agent. So he's making some money. But Kansas City, it'll be interesting to see their decision with him in the offseason. As you said, they've got 2 potential heirs to Travis Kelce, but not even an heir. He's getting his inheritance in fantasy, Noah Gray, right now.
Yeah, it's in the trust. Who do you trust? Well, Chigoziem Okonkwo, Maryland's very own, Maryland's finest. And Chigoziem Okonkwo is a player that I've loved since I saw him at the Shrine Bowl. And man alive, is he fast, Bloom?
Oh my gosh. Breathtaking. Chigoziem means, I believe, God bless in Igbo. So bless him and bless you if you have him on your dynasty roster. Now, will this result in anything? It's the Titans, okay? But after watching this play, any rational person, right? I mean, your grandma who has never watched football could have watched that game yesterday and seen that play when he pulled away from the entire defense on a short crossing route and say, maybe we should use that player more. Maybe we should have some plays in the playbook, scripted plays where we make sure we try to harness that because that was special. So, assumption of rational coaching, assumption of rational personnel management. Oh, we'll see. But you would hope that he's a featured player. And going up against Washington this week, we saw Luke Schoonmaker score a touchdown against Washington for Dallas. So I think the only offensive touchdown they got, or one of the 2 offensive touchdowns. Jalen Tolbert had one. The point being that he's a preemptive ad because you hope this isn't the last time we see him pulling away from a defense this year.
Yeah, the last time he's pulling away. It's time to pull away from the microphone, Bloom.
Right. Me.
Hello, good morning, everyone, because it's fantasy playoff time next week. So that means important decisions have to be made. Who's riding with you? Who's coming with me? Well, there's some guys that aren't going to make the cut. So, in that honor, it's time for the audience participation where you join in with me, with Sigmund, yourself, join in with the heavens as well. As we look to the heavens and we scream, cue the Chuck D! Boom! Week 13 shut 'em downs.
Yeah. And again, not a lot of churn on the waiver wire, so you might not need to be making these kind of tough calls. Obviously Gardner Minshew with the broken collarbone. I'm waiting to hear about Brock Purdy. If Brock Purdy's not going to play this week, I don't know why I'm holding him unless I don't have anybody on the waiver wire to turn to as a backup quarterback, and my quarterback situation is really bad. Okay, I think this is one of those situations. It is the 49ers, and we can't trust anything they tell us. And Brock Purdy's injury could definitely, as the season slips away, I just don't know why we're holding on to him in leagues where there's enough quarterbacks on the waiver wire, like if Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston or Drake May are on your waiver wire, then drop Purdy for one of them. Cam Akers, he's still on the backup running back list, but this is no longer a committee. It's no longer trending towards a committee. It's Aaron Jones again. So I might swap out Cam Akers for any number of those backup running backs that we listed off. Javonte Williams. And just don't tempt the fantasy gods. Just in case you picked him back up last week after his big game. Just don't tempt the fantasy gods, okay? Don't let a Denver Broncos running back be on your roster because you never know what's going to happen. Dylan Laube, that was sad. Jonathan Brooks, he's another one that I would drop for any number of those backup running backs I listed off because it's still Chuba Hubbard's backfield. Jonathan Brooks, injury upside backup, but that's all he's going to be. Kayshon Boutte, leading the team in snaps at wide receiver, is only going to be worth so much. Doesn't look like that's going to come through. And depending on your tight end situation, I might drop Kate Otten. I wouldn't drop him for Noah Gray or Chigoziem Okonkwo, but I might drop him if I'm fine with my tight end going forward. I don't need to hold on a backup, as we see that he's going to go back into that very important role for the Bucs, but one that doesn't necessarily involve catching a lot of passes.
You mentioned Otten. Now I'm thinking of Baker doing the Tommy DeVito dance. And
It
then
was
I'm
out of
thinking
respect.
of,
I think it was a respect.
it's
Well,
Baker. He
no.
planted the flag, and what was that? Ohio State, right?
Right,
In that
right.
game, like it's Baker. You might as well just grab his nuts. And then
Sure.
I'm thinking of the player,
Sorry,
or
Joe.
excuse me, sorry, Joe, the media member who's like, "Are you Italian?"
Me.
I think I
Mayfield-Ozio.
know who it was. I don't want to call him
Yeah,
out, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay,
I'm a quarter Italian. No, listen, here's why it's a sign of respect, Cease. Because if you're on the list to be worth being mocked by Baker Mayfield, then that's relevance, right? Like, you've made it. You've made it whenever he's singling you
all
out
right,
to mock
right,
you. You
right.
matter.
Okay. Mock you.
Yeah.
You don't need a sorry Joe for that one.
No.
But let's talk about holding on for the fantasy playoffs. Who are those players in week 13, Bloom?
Not many again. Who's there even make a case for? Juwan Jennings? Juwan Jennings, there's a case to hold on to him depending on, I mean, you're probably holding on to him no matter what, but in those short bench leagues, where, where there's some churn. Um, I think that whatever the quarterback, whatever the design of the San Francisco offense, at this point, we're going to see a lot of short passes to Juwan Jennings. So Josh Downs, waiting to hear more about the nature of his shoulder injury, but Anthony Richardson is playing better than the numbers indicate. So make sure you don't do anything silly like drop him. Sam Laporta, again, just don't do anything silly. We saw this with Jalen Waddle last week. Laporta, he did get a target inside the 10. It is the Lions offense. And the reality is you can absorb these low scores at tight end with the possibility of that 2 or 3 touchdown game that you just know is lurking maybe on Thanksgiving against the Bears.
Yeah, there we have it. Marching our way towards the holiday, and appreciate you right there alongside with us as we get ready for the fantasy postseason. Let's flip and go. He's Sigmund Bloom. Follow him on all the socials at Sigmund Bloom. I'm at Cecil Lammey. The show is at The Audible. We certainly appreciate you. There's videos somewhere, unless Sig's pointing at me.
I was pointing
He's
at you
pointing at
because you were
you.
introducing yourself.
Oh, okay.
Cecil,
Cecil Lammey, third
Cecil
person.
Lammey, everybody, somewhere.
Sigmund Bloom's over here. That's right. I'm tickling you. See? Tickle, tickle, tickle. There we go. We're silly. You're awesome. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. And would you please stay frosty?